Zomato and others as well. Vaibhav Sanghvi is CEO at ASK Hedge Solutions. He's with us. Vaibhav, good to have you with us here. Good afternoon. Thanks for your time. Again, market's doing well, but, it's more measured, right? It's not a race straight to the top. More measured. I mean, the US is, I think, it saw a bit of a bigger swoon, but it's also recovered very fast. The S&P sits just 2% away from its highs. What's your sense, Vaibhav? Are we looking at a bit of an uptrend here, building an uptrend here over the next few weeks?
Firstly, Prashant, I think this week there are important events, including the Jackson Hole. Let's see what comes out of that. However, if you also see that the global volatility levels, after the recent spike which had happened, has kind of cooled off, along with your domestic volatility levels as well. So what effectively happens is basically that money gets kind of starts getting deployed again, and you will see or probably this is some amount of reflection of the confidence in terms of the data which is kind of expected going forward. So we do think that the chances are there that we may see possibly a shorter term upswing because of the cool off in terms of the volatility levels. Having said that, of course, valuations is something which everybody is looking on to, so that it's going to be a little range bound, with kind of market giving opportunities on a bottom-up basis rather than a broad spectrum kind of bullishness as we see.
The market is also latching on to themes. So Nimesh was telling us how recycling, electrification, or even these entire, cooling segments, Voltas, Blue Star, these are stocks which have been gaining a lot of traction. Can you highlight a few themes for us which you like?
No, of course. I think the way the market is structured, we do think that consumers, including both consumer discretionary and staples, are something which are likely to do better going forward. Of course, rural side of the economy is likely reviving. And last but not least is basically the monsoons have been pretty favorable. So consumers on an overall sector is something which we like. In addition to other non-consensus kind of sector is basically the IT. So IT, consumers, pharma from a bottom-up perspective are the sectors which we would be looking to kind of invest in. And if you see, the nature of these sectors are largely defensives. And that is how we are looking at the market currently as well.
Okay, got that. Vaibhav, hi, good afternoon. Good to have you on. The big debate has been about what's happening in the auto space, right? With Ola really hogging the limelight. I mean, it's been an absolute stunner since the listing day, almost doubling, right? And one is wondering what kind of disruption we are in for. And these stocks have been, the likes of Bajaj Auto, they've had a great run in the last 1 year. There's also the rural recovery play, which some are sort of talking about with respect to the likes of Hero Moto. But given what we are seeing, and then let's not forget the four-wheeler space, Tata Motors is going to go through a demerger. So there's a lot going on. What is your overall stance on auto? What are you liking, keeping, avoiding in this large side of the market?
No, of course, Surbhi, I think autos looking at a lot of action within the sector. Partly also, kind of euphoric valuations in some of the segments. But when we look at two-wheelers, when we look at rural recovery, you will continue to see some amount of good numbers coming on from there. In passenger vehicles, though the underlying retails have not been very exciting, we'll wait for that to kind of recover. But in the advent that when the monsoons are pretty neat, I think we may see some amount of revival also happening into tractor segment. Of course, CV also have been continuing giving the kind of robust volumes on a month-on-month basis. But it's like, I mean, in some ways it is kind of diverse, where PV is not performing, but the rest of the segments are performing. And lastly, that the commodity prices impact, which had happened in the last quarter, whether it is continuing going forward as well or not, is something yet to be seen. So mixed trends with certain pockets kind of giving you the opportunity to kind of probably trade in this.
What about banks? Where do they stand in your portfolio? Because they've been testing everyone's patience. You find value in it, but it's just not rewarding investors so far.
No, we've been actually, consistent with our view, saying that banks, we are kind of neutralish to probably slightly negative as well. The reason is that, here is a situation where we've seen best of interest margins, best of credit growth and best of credit asset quality cycle as well. Incrementally, what we may see is basically one pressure on growth or margins purely because you have to have higher cost deposits. And lastly, that from a personal loan segment in certain pockets, including your credit cards, we are seeing in MFIs, we are seeing some amount of pressure on the asset quality as well. So going forward, probably, within a year, we may see earnings earning estimates kind of getting downgraded in this whole segment. Of course, the valuations have been reasonable, but I think that may stay reasonable, in absence of strong FPI buying coming onto the Indian markets. However, if FPI kind of investor interest comes back, then you may see some amount of traction, but otherwise, I think we should be neutralish at best, in this sector.
Let's pull up metal stocks. I mean, the Nifty Metal Index is spiking as we speak, and I think it's up about 1.8%. Let's just have these names, Tata Steel and JSW Steel from the steel space, but Vedanta, of course, I mean, there's a stock-specific, a company-specific reason as well, the stake sale in Hindustan Zinc and deleveraging, etc. That's another story. Let's look at Hindalco and a few others as well. Tata, I think, was up 3. Vedanta is up almost 3. And there are Hindalco is up about almost 4% now at this point in time. Vaibhav, any thoughts here? I mean, it's a global-facing sector. And I was reading this comment from the Chinese steel major, Bao Steel, warning of severe stress for the steel industry at least. And they produce about 7-8% of world, global steel. Now, that's, of course, comment coming from Chinese steel maker. I don't know what the dynamics here are and what impact that could have. But stocks are doing well today. Any thoughts, Vaibhav, on the space?
I will not go by the temporary kind of momentum on the metal space, especially the base metal. My sense is basically when in a scenario when from a global perspective, we are not looking at good growth in terms of the economic numbers, and especially from China, where, which kind of leads the whole metal pricing. My sense is basically you may have a tactical trade here or there, but from a medium term basis at least, we would not be keen, getting into this space. Unless and until, I mean, you can see stupendous growth coming back, which is unlikely to see. My sense is this sector will continue to remain under pressure. So at every kind of, rise, I think you will see continued pressure coming onto these names.
All right. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Vaibhav, for joining us and running us through that perspective. Point taken. Bit of a tactical move here, according to Vaibhav, as far as steel and metals are concerned. We take